plausible primate inner eye distances. Or you could have two cells, one that codes for big inner eye distances and one that codes for small.
Hey everybody, I'm Adam Welch. Welcome back to Straight Talk on Photography and the second episode of the Dirtbag Darkroom. As you can see, we are out in the middle of the desert here in California. We're going to see exactly what we can and cannot pull off today. The goal is going to be to shoot a sheet of film, and I've decided to go 4x5 of something out here. And I'm going to bring it back to the Moose Lodge, and we're going to develop it right here on the spot in the middle of the desert using the portable darkroom. I've tried to block off the wind, but hey, again, we're in the desert. There's going to be some dust, and we're just going to make do. So I hope you're in for a weird little ride. I know I've never tried anything like this before, but you know, first time for everything. I have to say too, if you didn't watch the last episode, please go watch that because I talked about what I have out here. This episode is going to center around actually developing the film after we shoot it in a less than hospitable environment. Now, if you know me at all, you'll know I'm a man of very simple taste. I love the simplicity of just the stillness out here in the middle of nowhere, the absolute connection to the photography. I don't need a lot of things to really make me happy out here. Just really the quiet, my camera. The sun's just a little bright right now. I did find something a little ways up the road that I was thinking about taking a picture of. We'll just see. I may end up keeping it more proximal here. I don't know. But I'm gonna give it about an hour or so. If you didn't know, I actually made a major score today. So I'm here in Cedar City, Utah, with somebody that might be my new best friend. This is Mick Snyder. And we have just made what could be the best trade of my entire photographic career. Pork for pictures. He has set me up with some of his fine bacon and ribs. He's got some
and
stuff
I've got
here.
some awesome photography that I'm stoked about.
So seeing how I am sitting here with all this bacon, I figure it would be irresponsible not to make a bacon sandwich. And then we'll photograph. All right, I think I found what we're going to use. Incredibly artistic piece of plastic. And don't worry, yeah, I'll take it with me when I go. It's not exactly what I was looking for. I think it's going to work, considering the conditions. So let's set up. know, I have this weird feeling that I'm gonna be a little bit sunburned in the morning. But that's okay. Let's get back and develop this film before I cook. I am, of course, carrying my chemicals in this bag here. And I don't know how many times I've actually crossed the country with all the altitude changes, but this time, not only did the altitude explode my favorite bag of tortilla chips here, it also made my developer leak. And that's what all this stuff is here. How you live, you learn. All right, now that we have our 2 exposures, which I hope are going to be okay, we are going to get started and actually develop this film. Now, before we do anything with the actual Darkroom box, we're going to take a minute and mix up our chemicals. Very basic stuff. This is Kodak X-Tol. This is the shit that was all over the bumper here, what exploded. This is getting kind of old, and I don't have a lot of it left now, especially since a little mishap. But we're going to use this. I think it's going to be fine. A good thing about this too, going back to the little spill, this is one of the most bio-safe developers that you can get. We're not going to use an actual stop bath. A stop bath is something that stops the development of the film. Instead of using a chemical, we're just going to use some plain water. The next will be our fixing. This is Codafix, just a basic fixer, very old school. We're going to mix this up after the film has been through the water stop bath. We'll put the fixer in there, and that's going to make it light fast so we can actually take it out without ruining the film. Last but not least, even though I am going to be using some distilled water, I'm going to use some Kodak Photo Flow. This is going to help reduce, especially out here, reduce any possible water spots that are going to appear on the film while it dries. And guys, I know I'm going to be mixing everything, the developer, the fixture, and everything in this standard issue energy drink bottle. I washed it. But anyway, since I am going to do the developer, I'm going to mix the developer first and then the fixer, and I'm going to rinse it out in between the 2 chemicals. All right, let's get it done. First thing I'm going to do, open up the old dark box, have our measuring cup at the ready. We have our tank, and I'll have to put the 4x5 holder together. And of course, we'll need our dark bag to actually get the film into the canister. My hands and everything else are relatively clean for the circumstances. And this will end up going on that column like that and going down into the tank. I'm going to leave that closed as much as possible for the dust. All right, let's mix up the chemicals. This is going to be, at least for what I'm doing now, I'm going to do what's called a 1-to-3 dilution. So instead of having to listen to me ramble about dilution factors, just know that the easy way to find out your developer dilution is to take the total volume that you want to end up with, divide that by the dilution factor, and then subtract that from the total volume again. In our case, we want to end up with 1,000 milliliters of solution at a 1-to-3 dilution, 3 being our dilution factor. So we divide 3 into 1,000, which gives us about 333 milliliters of developer needed. We subtract that from the total volume again, and that is going to give us 667 milliliters of water needed. It really is that easy. All right. Let's get the film out of the holder onto the reel. The watch comes off. In goes the holder. In goes the tank with the reels. I shall go ahead and take that out just to make it easier. Now that is light safe. We're going to switch this from the holder and hope for the best. All right, that's locked in. Now you can kind of see what I mean about the necessity of having a dark bag when you're working out like this. It would be virtually impossible to work with a film without one. Holder's clean. Now normally back home, I will do a pre-soak on my film. That means putting some water in here for about 3 or 5 minutes to just get the film a little more saturated, to kind of dissolve off that outer layer of emulsion. And this makes a much cleaner development, but I'm not gonna waste the water since this is the desert, so let's cook. Even though it says it on the side that is close to 1,000 milliliters, I just don't think so. Anyway, we'll make it work. Cap that off. I'm gonna rinse this off a little bit. Okay. Mix up our fixer. Actually, now that I think about it, let's hold off on the fixer because I don't have anything to put it in yet. We'll mix up the fixer while this is developing. We're gonna take our trusty thermometer before we figure out how long we're gonna develop this. Let's get a rough estimation of our developer temperature. It looks like it's about 81 degrees or so Fahrenheit, which makes sense. So ideally, we would be developing it at 68 degrees Fahrenheit. And for every, this is not something that is universal, but for every degree over, we're going to increase the development time by about 4%. So I'm going to go, or excuse me, I should say decrease development time, I'm sorry, for every degree. But I'm going to go like, I think 6 minutes feels about right for this. Here we go. And for the first 30 seconds, start the timer, I'm going to agitate this continuously. Make sure that top's on there. All right. Tap it to dislodge the bubbles a little bit. And I'm going to agitate this probably every minute or so. And while we're doing that, I'm going to rinse this out and mix up our fixer. If I can beat a minute. Let that go for another minute. I'm actually getting low on my fixer as well. And while I'm doing this, guys, I'm going to tell you that this is not so much a photography lesson as it is an experiment to see what is possible. So all this stuff is not how you should, more or less, you know, in the words of Jeff Goldblum, you know, whether or not we can. Close enough anyway. Pour in our fix. And fixer, I will mention, is reusable to an extent. And I may take this with me when we're done. It just depends on how hard it's going to be to pour this out of the canister. Got a shake. Perfect timing on that. We've got about 3 more minutes left on the development. A little overdue for agitation, but we'll be okay. That's our last agitation. Almost to 6 minutes. I'm going to switch out this water, or what's left of it, to this other jug, and I'll use this empty jug to pour our developer into. Our exhausted developer, so we can throw it away later. All right, there's 6 minutes. Now, pouring this out without spilling it all over the car is another thing. So I'm going to step right over here and pour it in this jug. All right, that is a good sign. That means there was a reaction with the chemical. The wind didn't like that very much at all, by the way. So now we're going to pour in our stop bath, which is just plain water, 1,000 milliliters. All right. Now that is going to stop the development. Give that a nice little shake. All right. Development is stopped. Pour this out again. And at this point, the film is still light sensitive. Okay guys, I have no idea when that battery went dead, but long story short, we have development. We'll pick this up. We don't have so many, well, dead fucking batteries. All right guys, I really hate those batteries went dead, but I've switched over to my backup camera, and hey, these things happen. I wish they didn't, but you know, that's showbiz, baby. Anyway, the negatives are developed, so this has been a success thus far. I dug out some more water, just enough to cover the negatives up to do the diffusion rinsing. It's essentially a very lazy way to rinse off these negatives. I'm gonna let them soak for about 45 minutes or an hour. Then we'll hang them up here in the car, let them dry off, and then I'll slide them into the negative sleeves. And hey, I haven't even really looked to see where the video cut off, so I may have to backtrack a little bit and tell you exactly what went on to get to this point. Well, the sun has just dropped down over the mountains way back there. It's already cooling up out here, so I'm gonna make this quick. The timer has just went off for our first 45-minute diffusion rinse, so I'm going to shuffle this around and let it go for another 45. All right, everybody. As often happens when the sun goes down, nighttime has begun to creep in on us here in Mojave, but I wanted to hang with the program to the very end. And the timer has just went off for the second round of diffusion washing. So before we take the film out, we're going to put in a little bit of that photo flow I was telling you about. Essentially what this does is break surface tension. If you have a lot of particulates in your water, this really helps to, I think I said earlier, to eliminate, if not eliminate, at least decrease those water spots. Especially since we're out here in the middle of the desert. So you don't need much, just a little bit, a few milliliters. Probably 1 or 2 milliliters, like a drop or two. And we're going to put that in. Give it a little swirl. That's really all it takes. Let's have a look at these. Now they don't look to be the best, but there is definitely an image there. I doubt you can see that. But we'll be able to tell tomorrow for sure. In the meantime, we're going to hang these up. I'm going to crawl into the mansion here and sleep like a corpse. All right, friends, that is another episode of the Dirtbag Darkroom, all wrapped up. Thanks a lot for joining me. I'm actually back here in my home in Tennessee. I have those negatives that we shot out there in Mojave, and the next episode of the Dirtbag Darkroom, we are going to be scanning those and seeing just how well they turned out. And I have to say, they look a lot better than they did while we were out there in the desert. So stay tuned for that. And remember, we have that giveaway going on just for this series. It's the roll of Kodak Tri-X 400 black and white film, some stickers from my good buddy Stefan over at Buy More Film, and probably some Cinestill monobath developer. We'll just see how that goes. I keep adding to the giveaway. But anyway, if you're a subscriber, you're automatically entered into the giveaway. I'm working on some ways to make the whole giveaway process more streamlined, easier for everybody, more fair. And when that actually gets updated, I'll be sure to let you know. But until then, just be a subscriber, and that's all you need to do. Until next time, everybody, I am Adam Welch. This has been the Dirtbag Darkroom for Straight Talk on Photography. Thanks a lot for being here.